Hello, my bookish friends. Welcome or welcome back. I am Elizabeth. This is Reading Riley, and today I want to recommend you TV shows and movies based on the thriller, mystery, and horror books that you like. I've got a stack of books here. I have a list of movies and TV shows that I think if you read these books and you liked them, you would also like watching this TV show or movie. It may also work the other way around. If you liked the TV show or the movie, you may also like the book, so take it as it pertains to you. I'm going to add my social media down here in the corner. If you like, connect with me over there. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's talk about some books. The first book I want to talk about with you is Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. This is one of my favorite dystopian novels, and we're following Marcos. After an infectious virus has made animals poisonous for humans to eat, we start to manufacture human flesh instead of animal meat. Marcos works in this factory. They used to produce animal meat, but now instead he's producing human meat. And God, the world building is so amazing in this story. It is horrifying. Marcos gets a gift of a live human, and when he starts to treat her humanely, he gets more and more conflicted about his life, his place in the world, and feeling hopeless. Oh my gosh, it's so intense. If you liked this book, I think you would like Fresh. Let's talk about Fresh. It's a movie that came out this year. This is available to watch on Hulu. It's starring Daisy Edgar-Jones and Sebastian Stan. Daisy Edgar-Jones is playing Noah. She's frustrated with online dating, with Tinder, all of that stuff. She meets this guy, Steven, in a grocery store, and she thinks, you know what? He seems real nice, and the apps aren't working for me. I'm gonna give him my number. So she does. They go on this amazing first date, and then he asks her to a weekend away. When they go on this weekend, she finds out that he has surprising tastes and surprising appetites. The connection between Tender is the Flesh and this, if you have not guessed, is cannibalism. It's a cat and mouse game. It's intense. Definitely recommend this one if you liked Tender is the Flesh. Moving on. The next book I want to talk about is The Maid by Nita Prose. This one was a fun little mystery that I read this year. We're following Molly, who is neurodivergent, and she doesn't really have any social skills. She has a hard time interpreting mannerisms, inflections, etc. And her grandma used to help her with that stuff, but her grandma passed away recently, and so she is navigating the world on her own. She is a maid at this really nice hotel, and she loves her job. She loves cleaning more than anything, and so she's perfect for this job. But Molly's orderly life is upended one day when she enters the suite of wealthy Charles Black, who is an infamous customer staying at their hotel. She goes into his suite and it is in disarray, and he is dead in his bed. Because of her kind of awkwardness and her inability to understand human behavior, she gets drawn in and she is suspected as the culprit of this crime. So she has to navigate her way through this. If you enjoyed The Maid, I think you would like The Night Clerk, which is a movie. It was on Netflix. It is no longer on Netflix, but you can rent it on Amazon Prime, Vudu, Google Play, and iTunes. The plot is
strikingly similar
in this movie. We're following Bart Bromley. He is a highly intelligent night clerk at a hotel with Asperger's. The guy that plays him, he's in Ready Player One. I can't remember his name. I'll put it up here. But he does such a good job with his character. Of course, there's a murder in this hotel, motel, whatever it is, and they start to suspect him. And as the case is drawing in on him, he starts to get this fascination with this other guest, this woman. And he starts to think that whoever killed that first person is going to take her next. Like, she's going to be the next victim. And so he is propelled to investigate this case and figure out who it is so that he can save this woman who he has this unique interest in. Very similar and a good time. If you liked Bunny by Mona Awad. Now, this book, I know it's very divisive. People either love it or they hate it. It's just weird. It's just really, really weird. And I think that's going to be how you might feel about this movie that I'm going to recommend with this as well. But if you don't know, Bunny is following Samantha Heather Mackey, a scholarship student at this really sought after MFA program in New England. She is just not like other girls. She likes being by herself. She enjoys solitude and surrounding herself with her own imagination and her own thoughts. And she really does not have a very high opinion of all of her cohorts in this MFA program, especially this group of rich twee girls who call each other Bunny. They are so annoying to her. But when they invite her out with them, she is curious. And so she goes just to see what's up, to kind of get on the inner circle, and everything gets weirder and weirder and weirder from there. I like to think this book is about that fine line between creativity, artistry, and insanity. I know a lot of people compare this to the movie Heathers. I'm not going to be recommending that today, although I can. You know what? I'll recommend that as well, because Heathers is really close to this as far as this clique of girls that are all in this kind of odd symbiotic relationship. But the movie that I want to recommend to you, I recently saw this year and am obsessed with, and that is Mother. This is directed by Darren Aronofsky. It stars Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem. Oh my gosh, what a crazy horror movie. I mention the director in this because it's so pivotal to the way you experience this story. The way that it's directed is so creative and out there and weird. And so that's really the connection between this and Bunny. It's just that oddness, that weirdness, and that horror that is just inconceivable. If you haven't seen Mother, we're following this couple moving into this mansion in this secluded forest. They're looking for some type of peace. Javier Bardem's character, Bardem, he is a poet. He's kind of a washed up poet, and he's had a little bit of writer's block. Jennifer Lawrence's character, she is nesting. She is lovingly making this mansion a home, cultivating this beautiful atmosphere for the both of them while he tries to write his magnum opus. He feels like he can't write until one day they get a knock at the door, and there's this odd man and his odd wife, and they just come barging in. This weird couple that just kind of infiltrates their space somehow motivates him to write again. It spurs the creative juices. And so he keeps opening his home up in order to nurture that sensation from being able to write. And I think this movie has a similar theme of that kind of fine line between artistry and insanity. It also has something to say about the male ego and the fragileness of that. And woo, it's intense. It's a very, very intense movie, but so good. If you haven't seen it yet, you like weird stuff, watch this, please. It is streaming on Paramount Plus and Showtime, or for free with ads on Freevee through Amazon. The next book I want to talk about is Finley Donovan is Killing It by Elle Casimano. And I didn't particularly love this book for a specific reason, but I know a lot of people really enjoyed this book. If you don't know what it's about, we're following Finley Donovan, and she is a newly single mother with 2 children and a struggling writer. And she's having a meeting with her agent in this, it's like an IHOP or something. It's some public restaurant. And somebody overhears her describing the plot of her suspense novel that she's writing and assumes that she is a hit woman or a contract killer. She gets in this situation where she gets paid to kill some husband, and she's like,
you know what, I'm struggling, maybe I should try this.
And so she's going to like jump into a life of crime, and she realizes that, you know, it's a lot more difficult in real life than it is in books. The thing that I didn't love about this is that it's just got this, what I call the Ben Stiller effect, where it's like something goes wrong and it just keeps going wrong, and it's just like, oh, what's happening? And there are so many times when she could have gotten herself out of this, but if she had, there would be no book. But what I did like is this TV show that I'm going to recommend to you, and that is Only Murders in the Building. This is starring Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez. It's on Hulu. I've been following it, and it's so much fun. It's about these 3 strangers who live in this same building, in this upscale building in New York. There's a murder in their building. They come together because they are all obsessed with true crime, and they decide to start their own podcast as they try and solve this crime and this murder that happened in their building. It's kind of slapstick like Finley Donovan, and it's kind of silly at times, but it's just a funny mystery. So if you haven't seen it yet, I would definitely recommend watching it. All right, the next book I want to talk about is My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This book, if you've not read it yet, is so good. I have a love-hate relationship with Grady Hendrix. I respect his writing so much. He sometimes triggers me, but this book I really, really enjoyed, and it's following Gretchen and, what is her name? Abby. Abby and Gretchen, they're best friends. They've been best friends since 5th grade when they bonded over E.T. and scratch and sniff stickers. This is set in the 80s. Tons and tons of 80s nostalgia. Gretchen starts acting funny, and after they go on this weird little rendezvous in the woods, and Abby realizes that her best friend might be possessed. And so this is really like a coming of age, a story about friendship, kind of wrapped up in demons and possession. But essentially we're trying to see if their friendship can overcome this possession and if they can exorcise Gretchen. It's quirky, it's funny, and it's also very heartfelt and heartwarming. If you like this book, first of all, there is an adaptation of this that just came out this year. It was good, it was fine, the book is better. But if you're interested, that's on Amazon Prime, check that out as well. But what I want to recommend with this is Jennifer's Body. Again, we're following two best friends, Needy, who's kind of like this bookworm, played by Amanda Seyfried. And then you have Jennifer, played by Megan Fox, her best role ever, in my opinion. She is kind of this stuck-up cheerleader. They really have nothing in common, but they've been friends for so long. There's this fire at this bar. Then Jennifer starts acting weird and gaining a penchant for human blood. So Needy is trying to figure out what the hell is going on with her. She is investigating as the boys in her school start getting killed one by one. Needy needs to stop Jennifer before she gets her own boyfriend. Lots of blood and gore, but also this is satirical. It's got that sense of humor that Grady Hendrix has, which is why I recommend it with this book. It's almost like it's making fun of the genre at the same time because it's so over the top. Don't take it seriously if you're gonna watch it. It's not meant to be a good movie. It's meant to be a satire. So just keep that in mind, but it's really funny. You can watch it on Spectrum TV, Prime Video, Vudu, or Apple TV. All right, the next book I want to talk to you about is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is, I don't even know what genre this fits into, thriller, horror, literary, fiction. I don't know. It's disturbing. It's one of the most disturbing books I've ever read, and it's about Vanessa and her relationship with her teacher. So you can imagine there's a lot of grooming happening. There's two timelines, one in 2000 when she's 15 years old in high school. She starts to have this relationship with Jacob Strain, her 42-year-old English teacher. He is grooming her the whole time. He even gives her a copy of Lolita. But in her mind, this was her first love. This was the most romantic thing that had ever happened to her in her life. And then we're also following her in 2017 when she's in her 30s, and she gets contacted by another girl that she went to high school with who is claiming sexual assault against this teacher. And so she's conflicted by this because she doesn't think of what happened with him as sexual assault or as trauma. This is really examining the psychology of trauma for her and how she has to face that. She still has a relationship with him to this day, not like it was then, but she still is in contact with him. And so she is unpacking all of this stuff. It's very intense, but so well written. It's one of those books that I feel a little weird about saying that I love this book, but I do. It's so well done, and it's disturbing, and it says so much about how men can manipulate girls like this, and it's messed up. It's fucked up. If you liked this book, I want to recommend to you a documentary miniseries that's on Hulu, and it's called Keep This Between Us. Again, super disturbing. We're following a woman who also had a relationship with her teacher. She starts to unpack it, and as she does, she's filming herself. And so she decides to make a documentary out of it as she is contacting the people from her past and contacting this teacher that she had a relationship with, or trying to. Unpacking what really happened versus what happened in her mind. And as she starts to get the opinions of her friends at the time, how they saw this playing out versus how she thought of it in her mind, she has to confront this. And oh, again, just disturbing, unique, and intriguing in a dark, fascinating way. So if you like that, it's also on abc.com or ABC. I don't know if there's like an app for that, and Hulu. So check that out if you're interested. The next book I want to talk to you about is The Last House on Needless Street by Katrina Ward. I can't really say much about this one without giving it away. If you've read it, you know. This book blew my mind. It was exactly what I wanted at the perfect time. This is the story of a serial killer, a stolen child, revenge, death, and an ordinary or seemingly ordinary house at the end of Needless Street. All of these things are true, and yet at the same time, they're all lies. If you want something that's just very psychological in your face, this also has the perspective of a cat, which I love. Nice comic relief. Like, this cat is super religious, and it's just a really fun, interesting take. I love it. If you liked this, then I think you would like Primal Fear. Now hear me out. This movie's old. It's from 1996. But I'm guessing some of you have not heard of this before because it's a little bit older and it's so good. First of all, this movie has a brilliant cast. We've got Laura Linney, we've got Edward Norton, and we've got Richard Gere. Edward Norton plays a young man named Aaron. Aaron is charged with a horrific murder of Archbishop Rushman. Archbishop Rushman took him under his wing when he was young. He was on the streets before, saved his life, and he's found fleeing the scene and covered in blood. So he has to have done it, right? We're also following hotshot lawyer Martin Vale, played by Richard Gere. He thinks Aaron is innocent. He has to be. As he starts to explain it, he's like, well, of course he's innocent. He believes him, so he decides to take on his case pro bono and defend him. But when they're in court, there are things that are uncovered that seem to point Aaron in a pretty negative light and really give him motive. It is at this point that Mr. Vale, Richard Gere, starts to question whether or not it was him. It's on the Roku channel, Prime Video, Paramount Plus, Spectrum TV, Epix, Vudu, Redbox, or Apple TV on your Roku device. Watch Primal Fear if you haven't already. It's available most places. It's so good. Solid. Just solid thriller movie, and so dark and so disturbing. All right, I have one more book to talk to you about, and that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I'm sure you have heard of this one, but if you have not, we're following Alicia Berenson. She's a painter. Her husband is a photographer. One day he comes home late from a photo shoot and she shoots him 5 times. No one knows why. From that moment on, she stops talking. She's not speaking. And because of her unwillingness to speak, she becomes kind of notorious. Her paintings skyrocket in value, and she is kept in a secure forensic unit in North London. We're also following Theo, who is a criminal psychotherapist who's been waiting forever to get an appointment and to work with Alicia. He thinks he can crack why she killed her husband and why she stopped talking. As he unravels the mystery of why she shot her husband, we are following him down a twisted path of his own motivations. If you like this book, I want to recommend a movie to you that just came out on Showtime, and it is called 1,000 Little Cuts. The connection between these two is that they both follow a woman who is in the midst of psychotherapy, and we're trying to uncover what actually happened. So in this movie, we're following a young woman who wakes up in the hospital thinking that she's recovering from just a minor surgery. This therapist comes in to talk to her and is telling her that that's not actually what happened, and she wants to talk it through with her until she figures out why her subconsciousness is suppressing what actually happened that night. There's also a police officer who's on the case who is pushing the therapist to let him talk to her, but she is kind of protecting her because she's very fragile, but she just doesn't know it. As we go through, we figure out what happened, we figure out what she's suppressing, and there are kind of flashbacks to her life and what led up to this moment. And I thought it was a fun little flick. So if you like The Silent Patient, I think you will like 1,000 Little Cuts as well. Those are all of the movies and TV shows that I'm recommending based on mystery, thriller, and horror books that I liked that hopefully you liked. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below if you have seen these already, if you have read these books, if you have any recommendations based on books that I have enjoyed, then of course I'm always down to hear that. I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me today. Don't forget that life is short, so read Riley. Cheers and goodbye.